Everyone, my name is Lakshay and today we will be studying that how can we reverse a linked list. So for that I have taken a linked list with 3 nodes, and each node is pointing to its next node and the last node will point to null. So for reversing a linked list we are taking 3 pointers. The first one is the current pointer which is pointing to the head node, and the second one is the next pointer, and the last one is the previous pointer. So for reversing the linked list we will traverse our current pointer to the last of the linked list. So we are running a loop while our current is not equals to null. So our current is not pointing to null, so we will go inside the loop. Then we will initialize our next pointer to current's next pointer. So our next is now pointing to null. So we are pointing our next to current's next. So what is current's next? This is the next pointer part, as you all know. So and our current is pointing to our first node, and current's next is pointing to the second node. So our next will point to this node, and after that we are initializing our current's next to previous node. So our previous node currently is pointing to null, so we are initializing our current's next to previous node. So this is our previous node. So now this connection is break. So after that we are moving our current pointer and our previous pointer one step ahead. So our previous is now pointing to null. So then we will move our previous one step ahead. So our previous will come on the head node, and our current is moved to the next node, and our next is also here. And after that our current is now pointing to second node. So we will again enter the loop. Now our current is not equals to null, so condition is true. Then we will go inside the loop. We will initialize our next to current's next. So next is pointing to here, and current is also pointing to this node. So what is current's next? Current's next is this part, and this is pointing to the third node. So we will point our next to this node. So after that we will move our current's next to previous pointer. So our current's next is this part, and our previous is pointing to our first node. So we will move our current's next to the first node, because our previous node is now currently pointing to the first node. So this will point to this node, and after that we will move our previous and current one step ahead. So previous will come here, and our current will go to next. So this is our current. So now our current is pointing to the third node, or you can say the last node of the linked list. So while our current is not equals to null, so our current is not pointing to null, our current's next part is pointing to null. This is the next part. This is pointing to null. So we will go in the loop. So we will initialize our next to current's next. So what is current's next? Current's next is null. So we initialize our next to null. So this is our next, which is pointing to null. So after that we will initialize our current's next part to previous pointer. So our previous pointer is currently pointing to the second node. So we will initialize this part, our current's next part, this part, current's next part to previous node. So our previous node is currently pointing to the second node. So this will point to the second node. So this connection is now break. So after that we are moving our previous and current pointer one step ahead. So our current will go to next. So current will go to next, and our previous will go to current. So as you can see, our linked list is now reversed, because our last node is pointing to the second node, and our second node is pointing to the first node, and our first node is pointing to null. So after reversing this linked list, our last node will become the first node, and first node of every linked list is a head node. So we have to make our last node as a head node. So how we can access our last node? So after completing this loop, our previous is pointing to the last node. So we will initialize our previous node as head node from this condition. So after that, our linked list is reversed successfully. So it will become like this: 3, 2, 1. 3 is pointing to 2, and this 2 is pointing to 1, and this 1 is pointing to null. This is null here. So now explanation part is completed. So now we are moving to the coding part. So for reversing a linked list, this is the insert at end function for inserting the nodes at the last of the linked list, and this is the print list function for printing the linked list. So if you do not know that how I have written this code, so you can check out my previous videos as well. In that I have explained it very well. So now I'm only gonna write the reverse function. So void reverse. So we will pass our head node in this function as reference node by value. This is our head node. So after that we will make 3 pointers. So struct node star current pointer. We will initialize our current pointer as head, as I have told you, and we will make 2 more pointers. The second one is the next pointer and initialize it as null, and the last one is the previous pointer and we will also initialize it as null. So our node making part is completed. Now we will simply run a while loop. So while our current is not equals to null, then what we will do, we will initialize our next to currents next, and we will initialize our currents next to previous node. So after that we will move our current and previous pointers one step ahead. So previous will point to current and our current will point to next. And after completing this while loop, we will make our previous node as head node. So the reverse function is completed. Let me call the reverse function reversed linked list. So now we will call print list function for printing the linked list. So now our program is completed. Let me run the program. So as you can see, our given linked list is 1, 2, 3, and after reversing the linked list, our linked list will become 3, 2, 1. So that's all for today. In the next video, we will do more programs related to linked list. So till then, thank you and bye bye.